Abel in Florida. Abel, you're on the line with Jimmy and Forrest. How are you, Abel?
Hello. Doing well. How are you doing, Forrest
Just
and
fine.
Jimmy? How are you guys doing today?
I'm sleepy, but other than that,
Really
I'm
good.
fine. Yeah,
I've never had a bad day.
yeah.
Oh, man, sorry to hear that. Maybe I can make your day a little better and brighter.
Oh, he said never had a bad day. I think you misheard him.
I've never had a bad day in my life.
Yeah. It's almost
okay.
certainly untrue, but he says it just to piss me off, I think. Anyway, Abel, go ahead. What do you propose here?
Yeah, so I've got a little point that I'd like to make. Maybe you guys could think about it and talk to me about it. I'm going to propose that the proof that God exists is that without God, you couldn't know anything.
So you've changed from
this
what
sounds
you
like something
hang
we've
on.
heard. All
Yeah.
right, you go for
We've
it.
heard this one, but you've changed from what you told the screener. Are you not wanting to? Do you not want to?
Oh I'll get into that. So atheism has no foundation, primary metaphysical, if you will, foundation for knowledge, but Christianity does. Therefore, the Christian God is more valid.
Okay. Is it more
And
sound?
it would be more sound. yes.
No.
Oh, you mean sound as in proving
if
the
you wanna
premise
say-
actually exists?
If you want to say that it's more valid, that a syllogism which says Christianity has Christianity in it is more easy to make a syllogism based on Christianity for a metaphysical foundation, which we haven't even demonstrated is necessary. But if you want to say, I can create a syllogism that is more valid with Christianity than I can on atheism regarding the existence of a metaphysical foundation, I would almost say, duh. Because how could atheism have a metaphysical foundation? Atheists might have a metaphysical foundation, but that's like saying ice cream doesn't have a metaphysical foundation. Therefore, Christianity is a more valid argument for a metaphysical foundation for than ice cream. Sure, but is it more sound? Does the syllogism survive scrutiny, and does it actually bear out? To which I would say, no, neither do. But atheism doesn't propose a metaphysical foundation. Atheism is simply, I don't believe in God.
I understand. So yeah, then I would agree with you that this is an argument, not necessarily an evidential argument. So I'm not going to be able to present God for you.
But
like I'm not going to be able
Abel,
to
should you
put him on the
believe?
phone.
Should you accept something because it's more valid or because it is sound?
You can accept both.
No,
You know,
you should not.
if-
You should not accept both. You should not accept until you meet soundness. You can create
what I just
absolutely
said.
nonsense. No, you said on both. Valid is not.
Yes.
Valid is.
Yes.
You can create nonsense valid syllogisms, complete nonsense ones. It isn't until you reach soundness that you should accept them or believe them or even suspect them.
Right, but I guess what I'm saying is a person could believe something based on sound evidence, right?
But we're
You
not
would
talking
agree
about
with that.
coulds. We were talking about shoulds. A person could believe on nothing. A person could believe only in the syllogisms which are presented to them that happen to line up with times they needed to fart. A person can believe anything for any reason, but we're talking about shoulds, and that's why I asked.
Oh, should. So you're saying it ought they believe certain things because of either soundness or validity? Is that what you're
Yeah,
asking?
that's kind of.
That's what should would mean. Sure.
Okay, well that gets into the is ought problem.
It's
No,
pretty
that's a whole
simple.
other
No, you're
story.
trying to make it more complicated than it is. It's pretty simple. There's the famous one that I pulled up just to make sure I got it right. Here's the argument. All mammals are warm-blooded. All black dogs are mammals. Conclusion, therefore all black dogs are warm-blooded. That one turns out to be sound under investigation. But you can have unsound, valid syllogisms. You understand that, right?
I've got one.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
Daffy Duck is a duck. Ducks are real. Therefore, Daffy Duck is real.
Right.
Is that a sound? That's a valid argument,
No.
but is it sound?
Valid. It's valid, but not sound. Correct.
Right.
Right.
That is
So what
correct.
Jimmy's
That is
asking
correct.
you is, if you want to make the claim that theism has a metaphysical foundation and therefore it's more real, you are making a valid argument because atheism has no metaphysical foundation, but it doesn't stand up to scrutiny. It's not a sound argument. So why do we care, and why do you believe it, and why are you presenting it?
Well, the problem is because if the atheism worldview were true, you
What-
couldn't know
what?
anything.
What is the atheism
Yeah.
worldview?
No God.
The atheism worldview is not no God.
Right.
To even
well,
use no.
the atheism-
What do you mean
You,
right?
you
just-
explain it. I don't want to define your beliefs, of course. So
What do
you
you-
go right ahead.
Okay, wait. Let's get some of your definitions. What is the definition of worldview when you're using it?
It's a view of reality. It's the way that you view reality from the top
Okay,
to the
so
bottom.
you're not even using it. You're calling in for a sort of theistic discussion, and you're using these words that are used in theological discussions, but you're not even using them in their typical theological sense, which is fine. But this is why we have to define them. It's kind of like when somebody
Right.
calls in and they're like, Jimmy, you have faith in science. And we're like, we're having a theological discussion. So surely you understand that I don't have religious faith in science. I have confidence, but Christian
Right.
religious faith, the Hebrews 11:1, is not the same thing. A worldview, generally, and when you're going to call into a show like this, we have to interrupt to make sure that people know, generally a worldview is actually like a philosophy. A world conception. It almost gets into some of the things like you're talking about metaphysical foundations. Atheism is the answer to one question. It is as much a worldview as ice cream is, legitimately.
Gotcha.
Do you believe there is a God? No. Do you believe there are no gods? Some atheists believe there are no gods. Some don't know. Some will just say, I don't know. I don't hold the belief that there are no gods. Some people will just say no. But if you don't hold the belief, so my worldview, my personal philosophy, I'm a secular humanist. I'm that's not atheism though. That is something completely separate from atheism. It just happens to be that it is easier to be. There are secular humanists actually who are religious privately, but as far as their personal philosophy goes, they don't let their religion influence their worldview. They just have this belief in God. There's no secular humanist meetups where he goes, okay, everybody here who's agreeing that we treat each other well because that's what we should do, who are prioritizing well-being, all this sort of thing. Everyone rejects God, right? Otherwise leave. That's not a thing you need to do to be unified with secular humanists. So I'm going to let you start again because there is no atheist worldview. What is it you are calling to propose?
Okay. So I would say that, well, I could ask you, maybe I can form it in a question to kind of illustrate what I'm getting at. What is the one thing you know, and how would you know it? How do you know it?
What is your definition of no? Because we've actually gotten to the point where I have to have things like that.
Mhm. Okay. Know is to be acquainted, to know, to actually understand something, to conceptually understand something.
All right, so let me ask you
for
this now,
example-
Abel. Let's say
Go ahead.
I know that my jacket is blue. Would you consider that knowledge if we are living in a simulation? I'm not saying we're living in a simulation. I don't believe we're living in a simulation. But if we're living in a simulation and I say I know that my jacket is blue, have I just made a false statement by saying I know?
You could have, in that case.
Then
In that
there's
case,
no
you could
point because
have.
what you're suggesting is that hard solipsism is solved by Christianity. This is though it's implied, but not solved by other worldviews, or isn't.
No.
It wouldn't be in an atheist, because to me, even if we're in a simulation, this factually for what we within the simulation have defined as blue is blue. And I would consider this knowledge. Knowledge to me is just the highest belief confidence. It's to just say I believe can imply not an adequate amount of verification when you're going to go with I know. It is basically the highest form of confidence, but it is really just an I believe plus statement, but that it is a much more highly justified belief. So with you and I don't think we can agree on the foundations here, because neither of us have anything that can solve solipsism, even your metaphysical foundation, period. We simply can't. And to me, this jacket is blue, regardless of if that is solved or not, whether we are brains and vats or not. It's a blue jacket.
So what do you appeal to know that?
That my jacket is blue?
Correct.
Observation and then verification.
So your senses or reasoning,
Nope.
right?
Then observation, then verification.
Okay, observation.
I can start with senses. I can start with senses in this case. However, I don't necessarily need to. I could also take a picture of the jacket and then take it into a digital color wheel and give you not just if it's blue, I can give you which blue it is down to a hexadecimal that is far beyond. In fact, there's so many, it's kind of crazy that we call so many things blue. But I could start with senses, and then I'm going to do
me. I'm another thinking agent. I can look at your jacket.
Yeah.
Observation, then verification.
Right, and both of you guys are using what to appeal to. When you read this instrument that gives you the shades or the colors, beyond just
again, you just said that you don't have. You just said when I brought up the point about solipsism, you were saying you weren't suggesting that. When this is what you are now once again trying to do.
No.
I am using the same thing. Everyone, Abel. I am using the same thing that you are using to verify anything that you're doing in a day.
Right.
The only things we all seem to have, and I don't even know that you exist. But in as much as it seems that all the evidence points that way, I will claim it as knowledge, though I know less than Forrest. Certainly I've met Forrest in person. For all I know, you're in, a chat GPT bot sent to be a bit pedantic about philosophical terms that are ill-defined. But I don't know. I don't know you.
Right. There you go. Now we're getting somewhere. Okay. So
I go.
You admit that you don't know things.
I admit no one knows anything to a degree of for sure the universe exists. But I already said I use the term know to mean an extremely highly justified confidence in a proposition. I already said it's basically I believe plus to the maximum.
Yeah, the way I like it said is it's a belief that it would be absurd not to take. So like if belief is just thinking a thing is true, but if you get that belief to a level where it would actually be absurd for you not to believe that thing anymore, like for example, I'm sitting in my office talking to a camera right now, I would have to be crazy to not think that that was true. It would be an absurd thing to not believe. At the end of the day, it is just still my observation, my senses. I can ask Jimmy, does this look like my usual bookshelf? I can take a picture and compare it to an old picture. I can do all the usual things, but that's all it is. It's just the same kind of thinking.
Right. So that's where I'm coming at with God, the absurdity to the contrary. If you don't have absolute metaphysical primary reference to know what's possible and impossible, then every truth claim that you state or make is arbitrary and meaningless. Whereas what I'm founding my knowledge on is something absolute and
great, Abel, you are in a simulation and you are programmed to believe that. Fix that. Solve that now.
I'm sorry, say that again.
You're in a simulation, you were programmed to believe that even though it's untrue. Solve that.
Oh, I could never solve it in that
right.
case.
So this is the point about when we talked about you can make a valid syllogism, but not a sound one. You haven't demonstrated the need for a metaphysical foundation, and you haven't demonstrated, therefore, if you have to have a metaphysical foundation, not being able to identify it yet, or it being in a concept that's so abstract that it's perhaps unidentifiable. If that is the reality, being able to put words to a simpler concept that is fucking nursery level is not more sound and more reasonable to take on as the explanation. You're basically proposing an answer is better than no answer, or an answer is better than a super abstract complex answer if we haven't defined that answer yet. That's the way you want to live, Abel?
It's a competition of worldviews. So if you're and when I say, and again, I know you don't want to say that atheism is a worldview. Let's say, are you a materialist or a naturalist?
I already told you I'm a secular humanist. Do you need another one?
Something that relates to what we're talking about.
But I feel like you're wanting to specifically box me into things that, again, like you just said, it's a competition of worldviews where you think there has to be a winner. And this is the problem with your thought, because there doesn't have to be a winner. And sometimes it's better to not crown a winner than crown the wrong winner. And so you're basically sitting there going, you know, it's the election time. You just have the two choices, but we actually do have a third choice. And that none of these represent a solution to, again, the thing that you are constantly pretending your worldview solves is solipsism, which it doesn't.
So I guess I'm a little bit confused. So you made a claim here. It's a competition of worldviews. You say it shouldn't be. Why? Why shouldn't it be?
I didn't say it shouldn't be a competition of worldviews. I'm saying it shouldn't have a winner amongst only the options presented.
Oh, yeah, I would say that
there's
the way that.
Okay.
Go ahead, Forrest.
Yeah, I would say that the competition you are putting forward shouldn't happen. I don't know about whether or not it should or shouldn't be a competition of worldviews, but like the way that you're presenting it so far certainly doesn't do anything for me. And I can give you a different example as to, like, you know, Jimmy put out the problem of hard solipsism. I would ask, you know, your whole thing here is like, how do you know anything? How do I know that I'm in my office? How does Jimmy know that his jacket's blue? At the end of the day, we're falling back onto our own senses. And even if we try to verify them, we are sensing the verification through our senses. Yeah. And therefore we don't. How do you sense that God is real?
Well, see, the problem is that though you're using senses and reasoning, you're using that senses and reasoning in the entire process, even when you're using repeated testing or other ways to measure or to
answer Forrest's question.
I understand what your argument is. I'm asking you, how do you know that God is real?
I've talked to God. I've seen God.
How did you talk to God? How did you gain the information that you're talking to God? How did that come to you?
The same way that you discern the color blue.
So through your senses. So how can you know it's real if it's through your senses?
Wait. I want clarification. Abel, you're suggesting, Abel, you're suggesting that you took in, through sensory input, a very real physical God, speaking to him, face to face? That you spoke face to face to a God and heard him audibly? What are you, describe audibly, the experience specifically, particularly?
Well, I mean, you know, not to go into waste too much time with it, but yeah, through the senses, I've seen, hear, feel things, witnesses around me that saw, felt, seen the same thing. I don't expect you to believe that. That's why I don't even care to bring that.
So observation and verification.
The deeper. One second. So the deeper thing that I'm really driving at here is that while you are saying that your senses are unreliable, I'm saying that your senses are not unreliable. They're giving you the truth. And they're giving you the truth because God gave you the truth through special
Abel, your senses being unreliable is a scientific fact. It is established.
That's called.
This is
why the problem of what we call naive realism. Yeah, it's a whole thing that you learn.
It's why verification is so important. And as far as I don't expect you to believe, I will give a person the benefit of belief of the details of their experience, not the explanation of it. I'll sit here, Abel, and go, I will presume that you saw a thing claiming to be God, and that you heard its voice, and that it had some message for you. Apparently not. It didn't solve the Goldbach conjecture for you. That'd be fucking phenomenal. But it had some message for you. And then I'm going to sit here and go, how many establishments of false prophets and people who thought they were talking to God but weren't have we had? Tons of examples. How many have we of hallucinatory psychological disorders, including ones where people in the surrounding area, because they weren't sort of understanding that that was the problem, like cult leaders who were revealed later to be schizophrenic, were even affirmed by the people surrounding them for a level of acceptance. How many examples of that do we have? How many examples do we have of miracles that are impossible, that lots of people say they saw, but a group of thousands of people who were also there didn't, and so then they have the religious rewrite of, well, the people who believed saw, and the people who didn't need to see didn't see, and then some people who believed didn't see because God's testing their faith, blah, blah, blah. Example after example after example after example of natural explanations for people who believed very firmly that they had these experiences that didn't. And Abel, you want to call and tell me that there's something wrong because I don't have a metaphysical foundation when you haven't established that, one, I don't, or two, that I need one for knowledge and truth, when meanwhile, you hold a belief of a real physical experience with a God, despite the overwhelming evidence, the overwhelming number of examples where that has not been the case, whether it's psychological, whether it's some religious groupthink sort of thing, whether it's a person having a psychotic episode, whatever, all of those, and you haven't eliminated any of those, but you're just going for, it was God and it was the real deal. It was the guy. I got to tell you, it's hard to hear a person call in with such a lecture for me when they seem to have failed such basic levels of self-observation themselves.
Well, when we saw that experience, I'll go into it a
when
little
you
bit.
saw,
We did.
no, you,
Yeah, when I saw it.
correct.
When I see, speak to God, saw God, first thing I thought was, I'm crazy. I'm going crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did is I got myself checked out. The really good thing about that is that I'm not crazy. I'm actually very intelligent. I'm actually very
do you know words,
in tune
all
with
the best
reality.
words? I'm sorry.
But
What test did they do
point-
to eliminate the possibility? So it's funny because you had tried to use the words "we" at the beginning, and yet hang on. Somehow you're also revealing in this story that level of verification of the other people wasn't sufficient for you, so you did go get psychologically tested. So it actually wasn't good enough for you, so it shouldn't be good enough for me either. The level of it being other people, great, we're on the same page so far. Then you went and got, which psychological test is it that eliminates the possibility that you had a hallucination?
It eliminated the hallucination was the fact that I didn't have any brain damage or anything abnormal in my psychological.
I'm sorry, that wasn't the question. I asked
problem.
which test eliminated the possibility of hallucination? Because surely, as a person who is confident that that's been done, you must know that that is impossible, that it is not possible. There is no test at present to eliminate the possibility that a person has had a hallucination in the past, that hallucinations do not only happen amongst the brain damage, that there are completely, seemingly arbitrary instances of hallucinations. There are people who have single one-off hallucinations once in their life, not even about God, about whatever, and then never again. There are people who don't realize they've interacted with a chemical or that they actually have a hallucinogenic allergic reaction to something, but by not taking it again. So again, which test did you do to eliminate the possibility of the hallucination, the thing you have already admitted you suspected first?
Well, what I took was the pareidolia test for one thing.
So we're not going to answer
there
my question. You know that
the pareidolia test is a they call it what, the DLB test. Also the Alzheimer's, I checked for that.
Right. So you checked for specific things. Are you going to address what I said?
Healthy. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to get it out so that you actually hear what I'm trying to say.
You're trying to get out answers not to my question.
No, I'm trying to.
You eliminated
but it's kind of hard
types of hallucinations. Yes, because we're wasting time. Because you're saying
no. You asked me a question. You asked me what test I took, and I told you.
It's like I asked you
the
how
pareidolia test.
It's like I asked you how did you eliminate that there was a car on your street? And you said, I checked for Chevys and there were no Chevys. And I checked for Cadillacs and there were no Cadillacs. And you're telling me about all the types of cars you checked for, but there's a huge number of types of cars that, one, you didn't check for, and two, you literally cannot check for. The true answer.
Telling a lie.
The honest. No, I am not.
Dishonest.
The honest
Do you know
answer.
do you know what?
Honest answer to your question is I have not absolutely eliminated the possibility of a hallucination because that would be impossible to do. I muted you for that part since you were trying to talk to me.
Not impossible.
Yes, it is.
I'm trying to tell you, there's a
it
test
is.
called the pareidolia test.
I know about the
Takes 15
pareidolia
minutes
test.
Right, and that's
And
one
it
of the
eliminated the
tests that I took.
Cadillacs.
I'm sorry, say it again.
And it eliminated the Cadillacs.
No. I mean, I think I understand what you're saying. You're saying that you can't eliminate every single episodic situation
including
that you may
common
have.
ones. There are common sources of hallucinations that you cannot test for. Sometimes when you test, if you do it quick enough, you can see it. Sometimes it's literally a matter of timing and whether or not they realize they need to do a brain scan in the amount of time that they need to. So also your proximity to the event does matter. And unless I'm mistaken, I think the pareidolia test suffers such a limitation. The pareidolia also that's for how you try to figure out whether or not something was Parkinson's related. Specifically, correct?
Correct. That is correct. It's a neuropsychological thing. It's visual hallucination like illusions.
Great. So you eliminated Parkinson's. How did you eliminate an allergic reaction that caused a hallucination? How did you do that?
I didn't have any drugs in my system.
I didn't ask if you had drugs in your system.
I don't take anything like that.
I didn't ask if you had drugs in your system.
How do you know somebody didn't spike a drink? How did you rule that out?
How did I? Well, I mean, here's the thing. Sure, I can't rule everything out.
Exactly. Jesus,
I'm sure.
Yeah,
you cannot rule out the same basis upon which we know many things didn't happen. The same thing that we have lots.
But are you consistent?
Yes.
Are you consistent?
Yes, because Abel, hang on. You asked a question. I'm going to mute you since you're not going to let me. Yes, I am consistent, Abel, because I have not said you didn't meet God. I have not said this didn't happen. All I have asked was whether or not you have eliminated these other possibilities. You defiantly said yes, 100%, and then we had to do fucking surgery on a grape to get you to finally admit that you hadn't. You might have met God. I doubt it. I've never seen even a possibility of God demonstrated. So I doubt it, because the number of examples of people hallucinating God being verified are infinitely more than the numbers of examples of meeting God being verified. But for all I fucking know, Abel, maybe you met God. But my position right now is evaluating the likelihood of that, and you have not yet given me a sufficient reason to believe that that is what happens. I'm unmuting you now. If you believe you have sufficient reason, please now present that.
So, I'm sorry, what was the last question?
You have not yet presented sufficient reason for me to believe that it is more likely that you met an actual God than there is a natural explanation. And by the way, Abel.
Oh, yeah.
Hang on.
Absolutely agree.
Hang on. By the way,
I already told you that.
Hang on. Those natural explanations do include the possibility that you're lying. I'm not saying you're lying, but when you're asking about consistency, I'm giving you the full consistency. I have lots of verified explanations for experiences like yours. I have zero verified ones that actually were God. So you're me talking to you, Abel. Put yourself in my shoes. All I have is a value that I only want to believe things if there's a good reason to believe them.
Correct. And that is never a good reason to believe based on what I just told you. I even said that from the beginning. That's why I never lead with
It's
that.
weird though then that you believe on that.
You kind of you just drug it out of me. And
Yeah, it's all my fault. I'm sure. So what is the good reason you
kind
have
of
to believe?
It's kind of the best reason is to use logic. You know,
Sir, you said you believed earlier because of this God experience, and you've just admitted it's not a good reason to believe. When we asked you why you believed,
not for me, for you.
Excuse
for me,
me,
I'm
you
totally valid.
You just affirmed everything I said about not verifying everything, not eliminating the possibilities, and you affirmed the whole concept that there are many more natural explanations that have been verified. It's infinity basically to zero, or it's an infinite ratio rather. So what do you mean it's a good reason for you to believe? I literally, Abel, the thing upon which you are saying you believe, I had experiences you could call basically I now call hallucinatory, or if that's a word, that they were mildly hallucinogenic. That there were experiences of thinking I heard voices, feeling so sure that I was having external knowledge put into me, the burning in the bosom. In fact, only the things the Bible promises you'll get, because it doesn't promise that you'll see God. But the still small voice, the burning in the bosom, for sure. Things that I thought, like where I'm just sitting in church and I think I'm seeing basically the reflections of angels and things like that, which are just basically lighting stuff as you stare at a blank wall for long enough, because the Mormon church decorates their church the way I decorate my walls as a 33-year-old bachelor, plain and empty. I don't believe, despite having that quote unquote level of evidence. So why do you believe when you can acknowledge all the ways that could go bad?
Right. So my belief is based on predictions. So I was told when I had this conversation with the Lord told me what was going to happen before it happened. Details, things that were confirmed. And I told you about the witnesses.
I like that you used the word confirmed.
Long story. I'm sorry, say it again.
I just like that you used the word confirmed, but go on.
Yeah, there were confirmation for me.
Mm-hmm.
And this, of course, I know that this isn't going to mean a hill of beans to you, and I wouldn't expect it to. But yeah, let's just say what I realized was just as clear and valid to me as you seeing the color blue, or a sky, or a car, or
no, it isn't.
Whatever.
No, it isn't. It absolutely is not, because
for me it was.
I can continue. No. There is no. You can't say for me it's as valid as yours, because it is not, and it's certainly not as sound. I have an existing claim that this jacket is blue, and I can confirm it yesterday, today, tomorrow, forever, until we destroy the jacket. But then even after then, because it's on video, we can repeatedly test my claim. You have a claim that God exists, and that confirmation happened within a group of other believers, tale as old as time for every fucking religion, but fine, within a group of believers. This blue thing, I can take it to a Christian, I can take it to anybody of any religion, and more importantly, I can take it to objective sources, and we're going to find out it's blue. What objective source testing can we do for yours that brings it to as valid?
Well, without my presupposition that I hold, of course I would say I don't know what the attribution was. There's one thing to have an experience. There's another thing to actually explain what that attribution really is in reality.
Bro, you do not answer my questions.
Person
he never answered mine either. I would still like to answer mine from a long time ago.
I apologize. Please ask it again. I'm just all over the place.
Go ahead, we'll go with Forrest, and then I think we're gonna have to literally like put fucking like walls on this call, because I just did a whole I just explained very, very meticulously the difference between my claim and your claim, and the ability to verify external objective. The blue thing, it'd be the easiest peer review ever to get to have done. And you compared it, and I asked a question, but since apparently you also missed Forrest's question from a while ago, Forrest, why don't you go ahead and ask what yours was again?
Yeah, I'll ask mine again, and maybe we'll go a different path this time. My question was, you started this call by criticizing Jimmy and I by asking, how do you know that the jacket is blue or anything like that? And Jimmy said, through my observation and then independent verification of that. And you said, yeah, but how is it verified? You said also through observation. You said all it is observation, and you don't have an objective standard and all you have is observation, and you don't know anything because all you have is your senses telling you things. You can't know anything. And then I asked you, how do you know God's real? And you said, I saw him and I heard him and I did all, and I said, those are your senses. That's the same thing you just told us. We can't know anything. And now you're saying that's what you've got. And then you moved on with Jimmy talking about, yeah, but I know I didn't hallucinate because I have no idea.
Perfect. So what was missed in that was that I was doing an internal critique on your view, and I wanted you to admit it. That's why I was saying everything that I was saying about knowledge, using your senses and reasoning. You guys are the ones saying that you can be wrong about things that you sense and reason about.
Oh, we're not just saying it about us. We're saying it about you. And I might go so far as to say I suspect you are super wrong about many of these concepts. It's not isolated.
But that's the thing. Literally any introductory science course teaches about logical fallacies, and the first thing we learned, or at least when I was, the first thing we talked about was naive realism, the belief that your senses alone can tell you the truth about the universe is a problem. That I have no idea with my senses alone about infrared light. With my senses alone, I have no idea about X-rays. With my I need other things to verify the existence of those things for me. I need to build instruments. I need to do tests. I need to find other, the microwave in my kitchen. I can't see microwave radiation, but I can see its effects on the food that I put in there as it gets hot. And if I had the right kind of camera, I could see microwave radiation. I could see that happen. I can do tests to prove microwave, but I can't fucking see it. So that's the concept of naive realism, the belief that your senses actually give you accurate information all the time and they're all you need is bogus. You need to be able to run tests on things and translate data into a way that your senses can perceive it. That's the whole endeavor of science.
But you're ultimately using your senses and reasoning to justify your senses and reasoning.
Again,
so are you.
So are you.
No way of providing justification for the validity of your senses.
Correct. Neither can yours.
You can
and neither
be wrong about everything
Abel,
you claim to know.
Abel.
So are you. That's the thing. You keep telling us. I'm sorry. I know we're saying the same thing, Jimmy.
But I'm special.
Yeah, that's really what it boils down to is special pleading.
What I know. Say,
hold on, Abel. I know you're just joking.
No thing.
Abel, I swear to God, dude, just let us finish the sentence.
Wait.
I know that you're joking. I know that you're joking when you say that you're special, but really, you aren't. You've been saying exactly that this whole time. You guys have no way of knowing anything, and you keep saying that you got us to admit that we have as if we haven't been very honest about that the entire time. You keep telling us that we can't know anything, but you have some sort of objective standard. You have God on your side, and you know that.
Oh man,
you're doing. I'm summarizing. It's a summary.
Real quick. Then, okay, fine. Here's the easy way. This is a yes or no question. Abel, can you be wrong about everything you say you know?
No.
Yes, you can. You are a fucking liar at this point, Abel.
No.
How fucking dare you? Abel, how do you know? Abel, no. I agree. You said neither can you. You can only say neither can you if, no, this is not the thing. Wait a second.
You understand the argument, though.
I understand fucking perfectly your silly William Lane Craig level, but also used by the dinosaur idiot guy, level argument. I understand it probably better than you do because I've been engaging with it like crazy from theists for years now. The actual thing I asked was, could you be wrong about everything? And you said no. And I called you a liar and you said neither can you, which implies that you said yes, but you said no. So I'm going to ask you again.
Do you know?
No,
you're straw-manning.
No, I'm not straw-manning shit. I'm muting you again since you think that you're in charge of this call. I'm not strawmanning shit. I repeated back to you exactly what happened. I asked whether you can be wrong about everything you say you know. You said no. And then you said the phrase, neither can you. Neither, suggesting a collection, can you, suggesting that the answer was yes, that we were grouped together in saying yes. I would say I can be wrong about everything I think I know. So if yours if you are saying neither, then you must agree with that term. So I'm going to unmute you in a moment and ask again, since you already implied it, could you be wrong about everything you say you know?
No, I can't, because the definition of know would entail that I know things, that I understand that. So no, that would be a contradiction.
Sir, what question?
Start?
Hang on.
Yeah, go for it.
Did I say, could you be wrong about everything you know? Or did I say everything you say you know? Which one did I say?
You said say, but
correct.
I won't say
No.
That
is there a difference or is there not?
Something.
Is there a difference or not? Between knowing and saying you know. Okay.
Of course.
Did you earlier in this call claim to know that God exists?
Yes.
I said not, could you be wrong about knowing God exists? I asked, could you be wrong about your statement that you know God exists?
That one, no.
You can't be wrong about your statement. You're a liar, Abel. How do you know? How can you demonstrate that you are not a brain in a vat being programmed to believe in God with insufficient reason? How do you know that? How can you know that that is not the case?
Because that's just absurd.
No, it isn't. How is it more absurd than the fucking magic God of Christianity?
Because that's reasonable. That has a logical basis.
This is becoming a joke. This is becoming a fucking joke because you don't.
Are you seriously gonna? What's blowing me away here, Abel, what's fucking killing me is that you started this call with like fucking 20 solid minutes of like semantics and detailing out. We had to go in a whole thing about what the word no means. And like, here's this different, you have the metaphysical side and here's this issue of solipsism and all that. And now you're actually going to tell me that your logical argument is, well, that's absurd. That's silly. That doesn't sound right.
Abel,
you're not going to test it. You're not going to verify it. How about simulations? What about a video game? What if you have a VR headset on and you forgot you had it on and you've been in VR for the past 50 years? Is that any more absurd? What if a different God exists, Abel? What if a different God exists and has tricked you into believing that it's the Christian God? What about that?
Abel, I know that I lamented that no real theist had called in so far on the show. Are you doing us a favor? Was this a real call, or are you a joke?
Oh my God, you are really insulting me today.
Okay, good. Look, do you know what's really insulting? Being hung up on mid-sentence.
I think where the disconnect is, you guys don't.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jimmy Snow. I'm the executive producer of The Line, and at night I sneak into Matt Dillahunty's house and I trade his cereals for other cereals. He comes out and he's like, wait, these are cereals I buy, but I swear I had different cereals. Anyway, would you like to support this channel or any specific show? You can do so over on Patreon or in channel memberships. There are special tiers for special shows or for the channel at large, and it helps us expand programming as well as hopefully very soon launch it in podcast form. Now, also, if you'd like to support, you can like, you can subscribe, you can leave a comment or a super thanks, which is a special highlighted comment that you pay for. Those are fun. And, screw the algorithm, go check out something over here, I suppose. Boy, I hope I can still put those icons there, because if I can't, this is going to look really stupid. I'm going to go buy some Cocoa Puffs and switch out Matt's mini wheats now.